Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, and welcome to today's webinar, Creating Bots to Optimize Your Messaging-Based Customer Service, hosted by Ajit Guman, Director of Product Marketing at Helpshift. Before we get started, there are a few housekeeping items that I would like to share with the audience. First off, this webinar is being recorded. The recording and webinar slides will be shared via email after the webinar is concluded. Number two, you can ask questions anytime for our presenter using the Q&A panel of the webinar portal. If we're unable to answer your question during the webinar, someone from Helpshift will connect with you at a later time to provide an answer. Today's agenda consists of the following. We'll first cover why most bots tend to fail, as well as what the right approach is to getting started. We'll then dig into success stories and common use cases, followed by a live product demonstration, and we'll wrap up with Helpshift's customer service platform. And with that, I'll hand it over to Ajit.
Thanks so much, Colin. Hey guys, really looking forward to presenting on the webinar today. In fact, the bots part of our product is perhaps the most exciting product we've launched in the last few years and the one that's been increasingly more successful. By the end of the presentation, I hope that we can see that you can quickly build a service-based bot in just a matter of minutes, deploy it, test it, iterate over it, and be successful with it. So let's start with why most bots fail. Since the last few years, especially since late 2015, interest in chatbots has been steadily rising. So as you can see, this is a Google Trends report, and it shows, somewhere late 2015 the trend started, and it's kind of peaking about this point. And this happens with a lot of new technologies where, such as AI or big data, when they initially get started, there is a lot of interest in the market. And then eventually you kind of realize what success looks like, and it peters down to a more productive part of the curve. So I'm going to cover why bots haven't really been that successful so far. So there's been a lot of news articles on bots. So there's some articles on Forbes. The Motley Fool has run articles on Facebook's chatbots failing. Overall, there's been a general disappointment really in the industry that chatbots that were heralded to automate a lot of natural language tasks that normal consumers might have really not stepped up to the plate and have been erroneous, have kind of gone on a wild goose chase, and there is a reason to that. So what we see here at Helpshift is the majority portions of the industry, especially with the generalized AI vendors in the space, use a certain approach to bots that has kind of become mainstream, and yet is also the reason bots have tended not to do that well. And it's really good intention, because what the industry is trying to do is build a lot of AI capability and logical capability within these bots to have almost natural language-like conversations with consumers. And that's where our existing technology suffers a little bit. So if you can see the screen, you will see kind of a bot-based decision tree workflow on the right. And that's what I call the majority NLP approach, where you ask the customer what they want, or the customer just types what they want, and you use NLP and AI to extract intent behind that text. And you do that multiple times. So if I'm on let's say, a website for a hotel company, I might just say whatever I want, and it's up to the bot to then interpret what I want, provide an answer, and then leaves me room for writing an open-ended response again. So what happens in that process is, if depending on how well the AI is trained, you go through a couple of branches of probabilistic decision making from the bot that is based on NLP. And the problem is that all of these steps today, especially if they are meant to be trained with a lot of huge data sets, where all of this data isn't necessarily already available, the accuracy of these different steps or intent phases within a bot conversation is only 50 to 60%. So if you've taken probability, you know that expected probability, if you multiply a three-stage tree with a 60% probability, will only get you a 20% accuracy, and that's abysmal. And we believe that's really a big reason why a lot of these bots are failing out there, because they try to do too much with the constraints of the technology that is there, and also the constraints of the data available out in the wild, because you're not going to have tons and tons of data of a specific kind. And so you need to really look at this from a design as well as a technology perspective. So let's look at what the right approach is. So the right approach, at least this is an approach that works very well for us at Helpshift, is we use AI only at the outset of a conversation where we ask, or a customer just types in what they want to talk about. And that is what we get really well. We make sure that that delivers more than 90% accuracy. We make sure that agents, when they provide feedback, the model keeps self-learning over time. So that's a hugely important. But more so, the bot stages themselves are purely logic and rules-based. So there's not much probability there. It's all deterministic. And it essentially provides more an opportunity for customers to select an option or provide a more constrained answer within a set of answer types, rather than fully open-ended comments. So by this logic, we've been able to deploy bots within the millions in some of our customers, where the bots run successfully. They do their tasks as outlined, and the experience is good for the user, and it helps the productivity for that organization. So that's really what we're seeing as being the right approach. That's the way we implement it. And I'm going to show you exactly this approach today and show you how that works in just a matter of minutes. Before that, I do want to talk about success stories out in the wild. So one of the success story I like personally is just my Amazon app. So this is pictures from my Amazon app. And what Amazon realized is it costs them a lot less to not get on the phone with you and just get your issues resolved through the app. And so if you go to the customer service section of your app and you go to the chat with us feature, it has a lot of pre-built bots. They're fully rules-based, and they give you an option for, did you order this product or that product, and a sequence of tree-based workflows that you just keep tapping on your phone. And within 6 or 7 taps, if you want a refund on something that you didn't get, you'll get that refund. And I've experienced that many times. It's so seamless. You don't even have to talk to anybody, and there you have the refund is processed, which is a much different experience for calling them or having them call you, maybe getting on hold because of capacity constraints. So bots here are actually automating a large chunks of customer service inquiries that would have taken much longer and more effort to have been resolved. So totally a fan of that. And we're seeing the same kind of success with some of our own customers. So this is a story about an online e-commerce company that adopted our Helpshift bots and started routing about 1/4 of all of their tickets. And within essentially 2 months of adopting the bots, they've seen dramatic improvements. The first improvement that they've seen is the time to first response has reduced by 95%, which is understandable because you can hook up a bot to respond quickly. But not just that, all other metrics have improved. Handle time has reduced. So handle time is the amount of time effectively that the issue took to resolve. So because the bot automated a lot of it, the handle time reduced by 30%, which is awesome. And finally, time to resolve, which could last up to more than a day in some cases, and now reduced by 70%. So all of those 3 metrics show the efficiency as well as customer experience improvements that bots have been able to deliver. As a result of this, CSAT scores have increased 32%, and the company has been able to kind of consolidate their workforce and been able to realize that they actually do not need to hire additional 50 agents that they were planning to. Uh, let's look at another story. This one is an even bigger success story with bots. So we have Helpshift, as you know, or as you might know, is really popular with a lot of gaming brands. So this specific gaming brand is a global gaming company that has titles that many of you would have probably played with. They have a monthly active user base of 200 million with 2,000 agents. And within 6 weeks of adopting bots, their issue resolution time reduced by 51% and time to first response reduced by 21%. And the amount of bot invocations is tremendous. There are 5.7 million bot invocations just within the first 6 weeks. So that's really powerful statistics. And for this company in particular, like the approach that they were following is they started off automating one of their most common use case. And this is a very common use case, at least in the gaming industry, is a lot of people seem to lose their accounts. And the lost account process there is a specific script that agents need to go through to make sure or to figure out how to recover somebody's lost account. People have spent a lot of time playing those games. People have maybe spent money buying points or coins within those games. So it's important that the customers are able to recover those accounts. And this issue type lasts 30 to 40% of overall issue volume. So by automating all of this with bots, they've already had so much success. But as they find other use cases for which to create bots for, they're going to have even more success. And there's a very telling chart for this customer. So this chart basically shows that around if you follow the green arrow and you look at when bots were introduced, before that period of time, 75% of all incoming issues were handled by agents. 25% of all incoming issues were handled by an automation, not a bot, by some automation that was closing issues before it got to an agent. After adopting bots, now only 30% of issues are handled just by agents. 25% are partially automated, so either a bot or an agent handles them, and 45% of issues have become fully automated. So this really talks to the productivity that can be gained by using bots. A lot of more automation and a lot of more quicker resolution of issues. So I'm going to stop there and then move on to the next section, which is the demo. Before we dive in, let me just quickly try to describe a few use cases that will get your creativity going about how you can create bots for your own industry and company across, based on the things that we are seeing across different verticals. So as I mentioned, for gaming, one of the popular use cases is lost account. There are also a lot of incoming inquiries about points or rewards issues that, maybe somebody bought points, they didn't get them, or how many were they supposed to get. There might be password reset questions. For entertainment and technology companies, they might use bots to provide general FAQs, help resolve access issues to media. For financial services companies, customers generally want a lot of transaction information. They want to update their account or ask about a specific piece of information about their account. Retail companies, there's similar routine questions such as delivery, changes, questions on sizing or products. And for travel hospitality companies, questions on their booking, management of the booking, information required when you're experiencing a service from the brand. So across all of these use cases, what you can see is that any recurring issue type that you can or the brand can automate from following a series of scripted steps can then be put into a bot that can follow those steps to make the resolution. And this is a very common pattern in many contact centers where there is a script agent has to follow to basically close a certain case. So there are a lot of scripts that humans are following already. The goal really is to try to now let the bots do the automated stuff so that the agents can add more higher order value. So for today, what we're going to look at is a mock luxury resort brand, Tropical Resorts. And for them, what we want to help them do is provide simple information for when customers come to their webpage. So customers might be looking for a certain they might enter a certain keyword. They might be routine queries that this brand wants to surface as an FAQ at the outset, so that customers can get the information that they're looking for and not necessarily have to talk to an agent. So that is, in other words, that is also called issue deflection or self-service. So that's the first thing we want to build out for this this brand. The next two bots that I want to show you how easy it is to build bots for is, the first one is a simple booking bot that will automate collection of information for when you take a new booking. So start date, end date, the type of room that the consumer requires. And second, preferences bot that basically, once the customer has booked the reservation, then they can enter their preferences around their check-in time, floor stay, and other things that the brand might want to know about before the guest comes and stays at their location. The capabilities that we'll cover in the demo will be our answer bot that provides automatic AI and NLP based answers and FAQ and knowledge answers based on information customers are looking for. After that, we're going to cover custom bots that you can build yourself in just a matter of minutes. You'll see how the experience looks like for the consumer, and then we'll see how the experience looks like for the admin, and you'll see how simple it is to build these bots. So let me just dive right in. I'm going to escape from the presentation and show you my testing site. So this is Tropical Resorts. This is, as I mentioned, a mock brand. You can see that I've been doing some testing on that already. And I'm going to start off with a basic question. So I'm going to enter a new conversation. This is essentially how the Helpshift messaging capability looks like for any website. And it starts off, the prompt asks me, how can we help you? So I can now start to engage with this interface. Let me just refresh the page. Okay, so let's say I need help with a booking. And the answers that I'm getting are about blackout dates, which are sort of related to booking, but that's not really what I'm looking for. And the other one is what charges are not eligible for earning points. So it's not really giving me any basic information about how to make a booking or how to modify a booking. So that's the first thing, let's say I want to provide information on. So I have some text prepared on how to modify a booking. I'm going to copy that. And then what I'm going to do now is create a new FAQ within Helpshift. So this is the Helpshift agent console. I am logged into Helpshift as an admin. And the first thing I'm going to do now is create a new FAQ. And I'm going to create an FAQ about how do I modify a booking. So I add that question. Now, whether the customer says booking or reservation, the AI engine is going to figure out that this is what they're talking about. This is not a keyword-based search. It is a machine learning-based search that will understand the intent behind what the customer says. And then I'm going to paste this text that I want the customers to know. In order to modify your booking, please head over to tropical.com/manage, enter your last name and reservation number. You can also call us at a certain phone number. Alternatively, feel free to chat with us on the website to modify your booking. And then if I want, I can add a few keywords here. Booking, modify, and then I will save. Let me just publish this FAQ, and I'm done. So let's start that query again. So let me first close out that issue. So I'm just going to close out that issue that I had started before and show you how the change we made for modify booking appears for a consumer. Okay, so now I'm ready to start again. How can we help you? I need help with a booking. See, so now that I've added that FAQ, it now shows up. How do I modify a booking? And what the answer bot will do, if you have, you're likely going to have a lot more articles about booking or reservations. So it's going to bring up the one that is most relevant. And over time, it's also going to, the machine learning will actually see what pieces of information is more useful for customers and start surfacing those more as you get more data and customers are asking for more help. So that was the first step of the answer bot. So the answer bot, we typically see provides up to 90 to 95% deflection rate for customers in conjunction with our FAQ and knowledge management, both on the web and on mobile. So what that means is if somebody wants a piece of information, they generally start with an FAQ section. And if they don't find what they need, they then say they need help. And then they can interface and ask, type in that I need help with the booking, like I just did, and the answer bot helps with providing initial piece of information. So from that overall step to the to actually having an agent interface, we see that actually you can set that up in a way that 90 to 95% of all incoming visits to this knowledge center, and finally to something being created, an issue with an agent, up to from 100 issues, you can actually construct this in a way that 90% of those are taken care of just with information. And so we're seeing that that's a more effective way of designing the support experience versus just giving somebody your phone number and having that high cost approach be your primary approach. So we really want a phone channel to be really a mode of escalation, which is why something like an answer bot that provides easy information when customers are just typing something is really good for deflection rates. So let's move on now to the custom bot. So right now I will configure the custom bot right with you. So at this point, if I say, I need to talk to somebody, nothing really is going to happen because the bot is not configured. So at this point, if I had to have an interaction with a consumer, an agent would have to come in. They would have to start interacting with the customer and solve their problem. And so, but if the customer wants help with the booking, let's try to create a bot that will take that initial piece of information without the agent having to ask it. So again, like I did before, I'm going to close out this case. Now what I'm going to do is navigate to the bots section of our product and create with you a booking bot. So the page just loaded. In the bot section, what I want to do is create a new custom bot. And I have created a few of them already before, which I can quickly show you and then build one out. So I'm going to build a bot on these lines. We're going to start with adding a start date prompt. So the bot will ask the customer, what is your reservation start date? Then the bot is going to ask, what is your end date? It's then going to say, do you want to pay with points or dollars? And based on points or dollars, you can have, you can branch different options within a bot. So we have that capability, and then assign it back to an agent. The other things I've done to set up the stage for creating a bot is created a few fields. So what I've created a field for is reservation start date, reservation end date, and then room type with price. So room type with price is per day pricing for different room types. So this is based on dollars, king bed, twin beds, and this is based on points. So this is just to illustrate the branching capability, but also the capability that once we create these bots and take these inputs from customers, they can actually map to fields within Helpshift, and these fields can then be used for different automations, not only within Helpshift, but also for updating information on your third-party system, such as a CRM. Okay, now let me go back and start creating this bot from scratch. So I'm going to create a new bot. Let's call it booking bot for our webinar. And what this is a unique name to help team members identify, choose the right bot. So this is an internal name. And then I'm going to give it a name that customers can see, just booking bot. And now I'm going to create it. Add first step. This is a fairly simple visual builder. I'm going to add the step name. So let's say I name the step start date. And the question I want to ask is, please enter your booking start date. Then I can choose the reply format. So I'm going to choose date as a reply format. Or actually, since we created, we actually do not need to choose date as a reply format because we've already created a field of for start date that has that format. So I'm going to choose that date. Room reservation start date. Cool. So we've picked that. And this is a required field. So if I choose allow users to skip this step, they could have gone on to other steps. But this is a key piece of information that I need. So I'm just not going to toggle that and save it. Now I can build the other pieces of the puzzle as well. So I'm going to create a new step and call it end date. Please enter your booking end date. Again, I'm going to map this to the reservation end date field and then save. Okay, so at this point, we've collected the start date, the end date. The next thing we want to know is the person paying with points or dollars? So just going to call this step points or dollars and ask them, would you like to pay with points or and then I'm going to give them two predefined options. One is dollars and one is points. And then save. Now what I can do is branch this out into different options. So I can give them a dollars-based pricing menu, and I can give them a points-based pricing menu and the type of room. So let's do dollars first. This is a step for room type, and that's, I would say, what type of room would you like to reserve? And then I'm going to map this to a custom issue field that I've already created. That is room type with price, right? And it automatically shows me the field I created. That is great. And I save. I'm going to create another branching point for points. Again, it is a room type step. I'd say, actually, let's just copy the language from what type of room would you like to reserve. And now we will choose the other associated field, room type with points. Now that that's done, I save. So, see, that's the system is prompting me that room type, that step name already exists. So I'm just going to call it room type with points. Once that is done, what I want to do is send this information to an agent so that they can finalize the reservation. So all I need to do is create one final step. I'm just going to call it final. I'm going to change the step type to end the conversation flow. I'm going to add an action which will essentially assign it back to an agent. And I'm going to say, thank you for your selection. An agent will assist you shortly. And that's all I need to do. It's going to end the conversation flow and send this back to an agent. Save. I feel we've done a good job creating this part. Instead of just, I could have saved this as a draft, but I'm just going to save and publish it so that we can experiment. Okay, so it's nice that the system is saying basically I need to map all of these options, so I can quickly map this to the final flow because I want all the information to go to the agent. And then we'll be able to publish this. You can see we're doing all of this live in the product, so you can see that we were literally able to build a bot in a matter of minutes, which is pretty awesome. And then the next thing I want to do is make sure that the setup is correct. So the booking bot is created, the fields are created. You will see that within the cases that I have been creating so far in the interaction that I've been having, you will see that it starts with this thing called predict label this issue as booking. So what's also happening, like I was showing you in the presentation, is we actually can build an AI model at the front and classify it into different labels. What that helps us do is now, based on this AI's labeling, we can trigger a bot. So let me actually quickly show you how that's going to work, so you know what's actually happening behind the scenes. We created an automation called new issue booking. If I show you how that works, it says if predict label is booking. So the AI label, if the AI labels an issue as booking, then you can assign it to a member bot. So let's assign it to the bot we just created. Booking bot webinar I just created with you guys. So whenever somebody inputs or asks for help related to booking, and I already mentioned this is going to be a very high probability AI engine, so it's going to work a very high probability of times, like 90 to 95%, then this bot will trigger automatically, which is great, because we want an automated workflow to help the customer before an agent gets involved. So I've saved changes. I think we are done now. We can go and start experimenting. So back at the website, let's try that again. Let me just refresh the page. Okay. How can we help you? I need help with a booking. I see the same answer board answers, but let's say I'm not satisfied. I want to proceed. What the system is doing is now it's automatically invoked the bot that I've just created with you. So it's created the booking bot because that's how I've configured the automation to trigger the booking bot once a new issue is created. So let's say I want to stay from the 10th of December to the 12th. Would you like to pay with points or dollars? Dollars. And then it shows me the options: king bed, twin bed, breakfast options. I've just basically tried to mimic what a hotel chain asks for their booking menu. You pick one of these options and says, thank you for your selection, and agent will assist you shortly. So perfect. We've been able to create this bot and deploy it just in a matter of minutes. And I actually want to emphasize this point right now, because there are a lot of bot platforms in the market. A lot of them require integration with your native customer service system. What you've seen here is easily within Helpshift. If Helpshift is your customer service platform, building bots is no big deal. It takes a matter of minutes. You can test them, turn them on, hook bots up with other bots that then route to agents. It's like Lego blocks that are very easy to play with, and it's very unlike the bot platforms out there today, even within customer service platforms that require a lot of coding to get started, and could really, just to deploy one bot is a Herculean effort. So this is how we've made creating bots really simple. And this is why some of our customers are seeing the increasing productivity and the success with CSAT and the increased metrics and the improvements that I was able to show you in the slides before. So now what I promised you that we would create one more bot. So let's say this agent wants to finalize this booking and present to the user a few preferences about what type of room do you want, do you want any additional amenities. So as an agent, I can, for now, I'm going to close this case because I want to create a new bot and deploy it, and then we'll go through the whole interaction. Okay, so this is our final bot. I've already created a bot like this yesterday, so let me show you what I'm going to create. So it first takes, do you first ask, do you even have any special preferences? And if you say yes, then I want to ask you, do you want early check-in? What's your floor preference? You want any additional amenities, and then solve it. So instead of creating the whole bot from scratch, which you can see is fairly easy to do anyway, what you can also do, and this shows the test and iteration capability, is you can just take one of these and duplicate. I'm just going to duplicate it, change the name. So this is our preferences bot for the webinar, and that setup is already there. So you can see how you can repurpose a lot of the bots that your team members might have created, and spend even less time the next time around when you create a new bot. So in this case, hold on, let me go back. I see that this is already created. It's fairly easy to create. All I want to do is now publish this bot and see how it works. We go back here and start this interaction. And now we have a fully built interaction. We just refresh the page again. Okay. Need help with the booking. Answer bot triggers in, but I need help. And it asks me, please enter your booking dates. Let's do that really quick. You see that the booking bot is done. Now let's take a look. This is going to be interesting because it now shows you how agents can interface with bots. So as an agent, I go in here, I see this information is already collected. I see that AI ran initially, it labeled this issue as booking. It shows me what answers AnswerBot selected, or what options AnswerBot showed, and then it shows me all the options that the customer selected. And not only that, it sets the fields that we talked about. It sets the reservation start and end date. It sets the room type with price field. And this is really important because now these can sync to third-party systems very easily because these are fields within the system. As an agent, I say, thank you. I am happy to reserve these dates, apply. And what I want to do next is I just want to close out the issue and ask them any final preferences. So before I close the issue, please also enter your room preferences, if any. And then I want to reply that. And what I will do now is assign this to the bot, the preferences bot. So you can see that agents can also assign bots and trigger them as needed. So agents are in control at all times. Not only are they in control, so I've triggered the preferences bot now, but as an agent, I can take over this issue at any time if I need to step in. Now that's great. And now I go back, I see all of the things that the agent had typed, and I can say, do you want to take a moment to submit your preferences? Yes. So this is the preferences bot already running. Would you like to put you on the list for early check-in? Yes. No preference for floor. I need additional room lighting. And that's it. So the bot was able to, the way I built the bot was such that it would close the case after it took in the information. And that is really, it really depends. You can take a bot and configure your own closing step. So basically, we've been able to see how we can build a simple knowledge base answer bot and input your knowledge base articles there to get high deflection rates. We've been able to see how to create a simple bot within just a matter of minutes. We've been also able to see how agents and bots can interface with each other. Bots can assign issues to agents. Agents can take over issues from bots. Agents can trigger bots at any time. And this is really a powerful product that I've just shown you 2 quick bots, but our customers are building thousands of bots as we speak. And you can see that they're doing that because it's so easy to create. So that was our demo. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope that it was helpful. And I'm just going to cover recap a few points about Helpshift and our differentiators at this point. So with Helpshift bots, as you've seen, we can build in minutes. These are bots that work. At no point in these flows were there many probabilistic steps that would have thrown the bot off. It did what the job was, it was created to do and was required to do very effectively. There's no integration required. And that's the case with many companies that are looking to integrate just a bot platform with their customer service platforms that are separate, which we do not feel is a very effective approach, because if you have one platform that gives you the ability to create bots in minutes, and then you go to separate platforms that on the other hand have additional AI that doesn't necessarily make their bots work, and then you try to integrate it within your customer service platform, that is a tall order of business. And we see some organizations making that misstep, which is why we believe that this native bots approach is going to be more effective. And finally, the way that we've built this is it's built for heavy duty automation. You've been able to see how a company that handles 75% of all of their issues through agents alone now only handles 30 to 40%. That's a huge improvement, and that's a huge amount of automation that you can build in. And you can do that because people are already taking a series of prescribed steps to solve cases. So that's where a bot comes in and helps you automate. The job of a bot is not to do the thinking. The job of the bot is to automate some of the stuff that was rote and things that you had to follow time and time again. Final few slides, we just want to mention that when you want to deploy bots, you really effectively want an asynchronous messaging channel and not a phone or a live chat channel for it to be really effective. Because what happens with phone or live chat is once somebody calls in, you first wait on hold. And this happens either with phone lines or even with live chat, where you might say you're in your person number 15 in line, and then you're waiting. And if you go away or you close the chat window, it says the session is over. You never really connect with the agent. And I've had this experience with many live chat products where agents would respond back to me after I was started to do some other work. I forgot that the window was open and I couldn't really finish the conversation. So that's the problem with live chat, because it forces a session forces a physical conversation with people, and that requires more capacity from the brand that is trying to serve customers. And as a result, you have a poor CSAT rating. And what essentially you've done is you've used an expensive, what should be an escalation channel to provide first line support. Now, you might want to do that for your premium customers, but you can't really effectively do that across your customer base, which is why asynchronous messaging totally changes the game. So you could start an issue at 3 p.m., go shopping. Meanwhile, the bot picks it up. You can reply to the bot on your own time, or you reply to the bot right then and there, because the bot doesn't take time to respond. And then while you are kind of doing your workout, and based on the information, the agent fixes the problem or does whatever needs to do, and later on you come back to it and then you solve it. That would not have been possible, this 3 to 6 hour time period where you went about your day, kept interacting with the brand solved your issues very effectively and productively. That would not have been possible if the brand forced a live conversation on you, because you would have to have waited in line. You would have had to take human resources to help you. In this case, with bots and with asynchronous messaging, you've dramatically lowered your service costs and you've improved the customer experience. So we are Helpshift. We do conversational customer service across different channels such as mobile apps, third-party messaging platforms, email, web messaging. So we are a fully digital customer service platform that focuses on messaging. And we do that through native bots, through a knowledge management capability, very powerful agent dashboard, AI-powered issue triage like you saw already, and analytics capabilities to help you figure out how you're doing and improve. The best brands already use us. So you can see some of our customers here. You can see that we have about 30 to 40% of the top grossing games in the world already use Helpshift for support. And you can see customers like Microsoft Office support close to 1 billion users with our product. So overall, we're very happy to be, we're very grateful to have been serving brands such as this, and we look forward to help to serve you as well. Thank you. So we move on to the Q&A section now.
Yeah, thanks, Ajit, for such a great demonstration of our bots product. The first question that came in is, what are the different factors to consider when choosing to implement bots for web versus mobile or both?
Thanks, Colin. Yeah, so the way we see this question, I mean, at least for us at Helpshift, there is not any difference. So when you deploy the product, it's both on web and mobile. It's the same product. It might have a little different look and feel, which might be appropriate to the interface itself. We have a little bit different ways in which you interact, because mobile and web interactions are a little different. But overall, you don't have to create these bots again. You just create it once, and it deploys both on web and mobile. So there's not much of a consideration there. The only design consideration that you might want to think about is people on mobile may prefer tapping rather than answering, big questions. Now, Helpshift isn't meant to answer really, long open-ended questions either, which is great. But as you might want to have more dialogue. So if you saw my example on the Amazon app, for example, you'll see that they've done most of their inputs as just selections. So you select from a few different options. So you just tap, and basically you just tap a few times and you get to the final answer. So depending on if your app is more web or more mobile, you might want to think about that to make the experience a little more seamless. Regardless, Helpshift bots are as easy as they are in the market to help solve customer issues. So you can't go wrong either ways.
Great. So the last question that we'll field today centers around the agent experience and agent interaction. It's specifically, how do you decide when an agent should intervene in a typical bot interaction, and what do you need to do to train your agents in order to work with bots effectively?
Yeah, so I would say that the philosophy here is that the brand and the agents are really in charge of the experience. So when you roll out a bot, the agent can take over issues at any time, like I showed you. So the idea is that you want, if let's say the bot is going to run when it runs, when maybe the customer takes more time to respond. And if you've done your work in terms of segmenting the customers, and you think there's a customer who wants to make a booking and they're taking too long to respond, well, you can have an automation. But if this is a revenue-based workflow for you, where you're going to actually make money, or this is important for your premium customer, then you might want to just stop the bot interaction right there and step in and help solve that issue. So it depends. So you might want to design that from the start and say, for a certain amount of customers, I'm going to deliver more bot interactions and then have agents come in. And for other types of customers, I'm going to have agents themselves. So I think that is a very fair analysis to do before you begin to deploy bots. The next thing is you do want to provide your agents the capability to step in as and when required, because it is possible that the customer takes too much time to respond or does not engage like you intended to. Now, we've not seen that. We've actually seen that 95% of customers will go through the whole bot interaction questions that you presented to them. So that's not, we've not seen issues with it, but if there are stuck, then the agent can jump in at any point. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, I think it does. And I think it was centered around how do you kind of orchestrate the ideal experience for the customer with factoring in bots as well as agents?
Right. And again, like I mentioned, you kind of have to create some sort of structure to where you start deploying bots at the first. And I think I would also say that you want to first create bots for those issues that are high volume but routine. So you want to automate your routine issues. So like I gave you the account opening example for gaming, the lost account example. So if 30% of your issues are lost account, your agents are already taking a sequence of 10 steps of collecting information and then validating the information to do anything with that, that is ripe for automation because the agents don't need to do that. And you don't need to create scripts. So anything you're creating a form or a script for, that's where you want to start off with creating bots for your customers. And then that'll be the safest approach to begin.
Excellent. Well, thank you again, Ajit, for putting together this wonderful presentation and demo. So that concludes the presentation today for our webinar. If we weren't able to answer your question, we'll forward it over to one of our product experts, and they'll be in touch with you one-on-one over email. If you have any additional questions about our bot platform or what we do in the customer service industry, you're more than welcome to email sales@helpshift.com, and someone will respond to you with the appropriate answer. Again, thanks again for joining us today, and we hope to speak to you again soon.